What goals did you set for 2025? If better sleep is one, Symbiotica's magnesium L-threonate helps you wake up refreshed. For gut health, their glutathione supports digestion and reduces bloating. Symbiotica is one of the most transparent brands out there, never compromising on quality or sourcing. Their products are free from seed oils, preservatives, toxins, and artificial additives, something you can taste and feel in every packet. Go to Symbiotica.com and use code iHeart for 20% off and free shipping. That's Symbiotica.com, code iHeart.
Hey, it's Bobby Bones with some exciting news. Open booking is here for the Top Shelf Country Cruise, setting sail February 2026 aboard the luxurious Celebrity Reflection. Spots are filling up fast, so book your stateroom today or sign up to become a lineup insider to receive the final lineup 48 hours prior to the public. Don't miss your chance to make February 2026 unforgettable. Visit TopShelfCountryCruise.com. That's TopShelfCountryCruise.com.
You didn't like the episode where they go to gem school?
Meh. Like, I don't know. What's the purpose?
I mean, the purpose of the season is money.
But Rebecca Sugar doesn't need the money. The heart is gone.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Eli. You okay, buddy?
Yeah, never been better. How about you?
Why are you talking
Sound
like
weird.
that?
Like what?
Like you watch an episode of Two Broke Girls. Did you try to watch an episode of Two Broke Girls?
Out, Tom. Get off.
Tom, he's fine. I just lobotomized him.
You lobotomized him?
Yep. Just got, a little tired of his shenanigans. Didn't I, best friend?
It's more like a work acquaintance situation.
See? Perfect.
I don't know, Cecil. What, won't this keep him from being able to work on our shows?
Really? What did he do on your show? What did he do on any of your shows?
It's a good point. It's a really good point.
Have you guys been getting this snow this winter? It's crazy, right? The snow.
I know he does something, right, Heath?
Yeah. No. Yeah. He. Damn it.
You guys want to go see a Transformers movie? I could see a Transformers movie.
That's not the point, though. What about his quality of life?
Don't be ridiculous. He's never been happier. Hey, Eli, want to play Cards Against Humanity, buddy?
Oh, boy, do I. I literally cannot imagine a better time.
Rest my case, folks. Rest my case.
Actually, can we do apples to apples? I don't like the swears in Cards Against Humanity.
Sure can, buddy. Absolutely. Apples to apples it is.
Awesome.
Good call, Cecil.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Eli, and I'll be inserting information directly into your brain tonight. But I'll need some jagged instruments. First up, two men who remember life before germ theory, Noah and Cecil.
I mean, life probably isn't the right term, but yes.
People had a much better sense of humor back then, I'll tell you.
And also joining us tonight, two men who've been rubbing some tussin in it for way too long. Tom and Heath.
Okay, not too long, the right amount of time. Eli, thank you. For me, it's not long, actually not long at all.
Yeah, in my house we were kind of poor. We rubbed Sam's Club tussin in it. Yeah. Phobitussin.
Before we begin tonight, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. If you tune in every week and would like us not to starve to death, why not give us as little as $1 an episode over at patreon.com/citationpod. Or you can just not support the arts. It's fine. All we do is make you smile and love you. Why would you give us as little as $1 over at patreon.com/citationpod? Hundreds of hours of content, variety of subjects, worthless to you. It's fine. And if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Cecil, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about Walter Freeman.
And Tom, you've extracted the core facts. Are you ready to tickle our brains?
Well, if I wasn't, I have wasted literal minutes of specialized training.
So who was Walter Freeman?
Walter Freeman was the father of the lobotomy, a procedure which seemed like a very good idea for a very short time, in which while not the worst thing a doctor would do during the 1930s and 40s, is at least on that list. Walter Freeman's an example of the incredible amount of damage that can be done by one person with a lot of personality, an ability to manipulate the press, and some fervently held, spectacularly dangerous ideas.
A lesson none of our listeners in the military needed to learn right now.
Yeah, right. Like, shame this example wasn't available to us in 2016.
All right, so Walter Freeman was born in 1895 in Philadelphia. His grandfather was an accomplished Civil War surgeon. Well, accomplished Civil War surgeon generally means something like, could remove limbs slightly faster than patients probably bled out, but William's grandfather was like 1800s legit. He removed a tumor from the jaw of President Grover Cleveland, who survived long enough for history to forget about him. He was the president of the American Medical Association, even experimented with early forms of CPR. Freeman's father was a well-regarded ear, nose, and throat doctor, so William Freeman may have felt some pressure to perform.
Oh, okay, but let's keep this in perspective. The early form of CPR was just punching you in the heart for having demons.
All right, after graduating from what was then Yale College in 1916, Freeman went on to study neurology at the University of Pennsylvania Medical School. Notice here that I did not say surgery. He did not study that, so ice picking that one for later. He went on to further study psychiatry and neurology in Europe, and he earned a PhD in neurology from George Washington University.
Yeah, but back then, defending your thesis was basically the scene from Rocky where Burgess Meredith made Stallone catch a chicken with his bare hands. So it's not that prestigious,
So, as a young doctor, Freeman was appalled at the state of care given to psychiatric patients. And here I have to say, I agree with him on this. At this point in history, the idea that psychiatric illnesses had a biological base in the brain, that was a radical idea. At mental hospitals, more commonly called asylums, they offered ineffective, barbaric treatments when they bothered to offer any treatments at all. These were more warehouses for the mentally ill than places where people had any hope of getting real care. Asylums offered as treatment long periods of forced restraint with manacles and straitjackets, being pummeled by high-pressure cold water, being wrapped up and tied in a thick, tight sheet, and then submerged in ice water.
Were they witches or?
Not far off. The forcible removal of teeth and tonsils. And intentionally infecting patients with malaria. Oh, and even more ineffective, talk therapy.
Yeah, and it was sexist, too. Female patients were getting hand jobs, from what I understand, but men had to just, live with hysteria. No hand job.
Keith, punching a hole in drywall is the male orgasm. I've told you this.
All right, so Freeman was appalled at the wasted lives of the people confined to these asylums, and he was similarly dejected on learning of the treatment options being offered. He believed that the basis for psychiatric disorders lay in the brain, and he began his early work with the most cutting-edge treatments then available. So one of these treatments was insulin therapy. The idea was this. If you give someone that doesn't need insulin, like a whole bunch of insulin, they will go into convulsions, lapse into a coma, and hopefully not die. After a while, if they regained consciousness, the thinking was that you had just reset their brain, and so they were now cured. This, of course, was fucking nuts and didn't work at all and had more than a few drawbacks.
Yeah, several drawbacks. Nobody was like, hey, why don't we just beat people into comas and save the insulin? Because we actually have a thing for that.
This is like, did you try unplugging your router of the early 1900s?
It was. So another one
Give
of these
him
crazy
some more
treatments.
insulin. I think he's flooded. Keep pumping it. Keep pumping. Pump it.
Well, we'll get to the Joe when they try to jumpstart people in a minute. So another treatment Freeman tried was metrazole therapy. And this thinking went something like this. Mental illness and epilepsy could not coexist in the same person at the same time.
What?
What?
I have no idea how they got to that thinking, but that was the idea.
All right, so I noticed that none of the faces people make during the epileptic seizures are the, sad frowny face. So I've got an idea.
So the drug metrazole induces just fucking horrific seizures. So if you give somebody who is mentally ill metrazole and then they have just a whole shit ton of seizures, you would drive the crazy from them. Now, this obviously didn't work, and the seizures from Metrazole, they were so severe that one study found that fully 43% of the patients induced into Metrazole seizures fractured at least one of their vertebrae while seizing.
Jeez, and God, the 1940s, right? Like when medicine was just trying shit out, killing people, and then going home to never think about those people again.
I like they used to treat this like a stuck drawer. Just bang that fucker in, it'll go back in one place. Don't worry, just hit it. You're like the fucking Fonz.
Get the Fonz in here.
Exactly. You're the fucking Fonz of medicine.
So Freeman also looked into electroconvulsive therapy. So ECT is actually still in use today, and while it has its own troubling history and some promising and interesting things happening both currently and in related research relative to like deep brain stimulation, suffice it to say here that in Freeman's early career, ECT was basically like jamming a fork into the socket while the patient held it under their tongue and then hoping you accidentally fried the right part of their brain in addition to all of their childhood memories. So, like, better than the insulin and the Metrazole, but still not great.
I gotta tell you guys, with ECT and ketamine turning out to be like amazing treatments for depression in recent years, I think we should put more scientific research into the possibilities of boiled down cough syrup. Like, I think I figured something out.
Well, I gotta be honest, man. Premeditated malaria is sounding better and better as you go.
Freeman is still on the lookout for the holy grail of psychiatric fixes. So he attended a conference in London where he observed a demonstration of chimpanzees whose frontal lobes had been surgically damaged. The chimps were docile and inactive, exactly how we wanted our mental patients. So one of the attendees at the conference, not Freeman actually, but a guy named Agaz Moniz, I've probably terribly mispronounced that, went back home to Portugal and began immediately experimenting using this technique on mentally ill patients in his charge.
Okay, the chimps, they were just like damaged in general. Why wouldn't they try something more specific than just damaged? Like, they're doing brain surgery on chimps, and some guy's like, I don't know, fuck it up and see what happens. We'll take it from there.
It's not wrong. So when Freeman heard about Moniz, he thought, well, fuck it. I guess if it's good enough for the Portuguese and a couple of chimps, it's good enough for the massive influx of terribly mentally ill soldiers overwhelming our asylums here at home. So best get cracking. But remember, Freeman was not a surgeon. So Freeman enlisted the aid of his buddy, a surgeon named James Watts, to help him out.
Right. Well, yeah, because if an untrained person did it, chopping out parts of people's brains might have negative consequences. It could be unsafe.
So I love this. So together they practiced on cadavers, and they modified Moniz's technique a little bit. While Moniz used a wire scoop to take out melon ball-like cores from his patients' brains. For realsies.
You can't be a doctor and have a tool called scoop. I'm sorry.
It's a hell of a salad, though.
Freeman and Watts adapted the technique. Their method involved drilling as many as 6 holes into their patients' skulls, then surgically severing the connection between the frontal lobe and the thalamus. Because it was Freeman's belief that the thalamus was in charge of emotion, and that mentally ill people had such uncontrollable, powerful emotions that their minds were unable to keep up and process them all. Their emotions were thus all the mentally ill could think about. So Freeman created a technique to literally separate the emotional center of the brain from the thinky bits. From here on out, things actually go from bad to much, much worse.
Yeah, said like a guy with normal emotions. Well, I need to go hold an ice cream scoop over the stove, so let's take a quick break for a little something we like to call apropos of nothing.
Dr. Watts.
Walter Freeman, you old dog, how are you?
I'm good. Cigarettes?
Don't mind if I do. Well, so let's get right into it, Watts. I'm thinking of developing a revolutionary new procedure.
You are.
Indeed I am. What if you could treat maladies of the mind by removing it?
Removing what?
The mind. You know, scoop out the bad bits. Just scoop them.
I see, yes. Care for some steak, then?
Oh, yes, thank you very much, always. I was hoping since this is your area of expertise, you could show me where it is.
Where what is, then?
The brain.
Oh, yeah, it's up here, in the skull, up top.
The skull! Of course, the human body is a marvel, I must say. Anyway, what do you say? Want to scoop out some brains and see if it cures people?
Why not? I'm in, yes.
That a boy. See you around, Freeman.
Indeed.
And thanks again for seeing me while you're performing surgery.
Oh, not at all.
Could I have some more anesthesia?
No, shut up.
Oh, okay.
Patients are the worst patients.
And we're back. When we left off, we hadn't gotten all the medicine right like we have today. Don't think about it. So, tell us, Tom, what did the confident professionals at the top of their field do next?
Well, Freeman's new technique was called a lobotomy. He called it by Freeman, who named it that. That's what he named it. His first patient was a housewife suffering from something called agitated depression and insomnia. So, no problem, just probably your brain parts are talking to each other too much. So Freeman and Watts scheduled her for the first ever frontal lobotomy. Freeman kept a journal, so the patient's last words before the procedure are part of his story now. According to his own journal, the patient's last words before surgery were, quote, "Who is that man? What does he want here? What's he going to do to me? Tell him to go away. Oh, I don't want to see him."
Jesus.
This was again followed by, according to the doctor's own journal, a scream.
When would he use that? Like, he's talking to his assistant. Okay, so the brain slicing is going great. Quick question. Read it back to me. Right before the surgery, the lady said, "Get away from me. I don't want this." Scream?
Hey, Doc, why does your journal read like a Lovecraft novel? Why is that?
All right, so here's how that first lobotomy was performed. So first they drilled the aforementioned 6 holes into the woman's skull. Then they used a tool they called a leucotome, which was inserted into the brain through each of the 6 holes. The plunger is depressed on the tool, which extends out 2 wires from each side. And the tool...
Hold on, there's a plunger?
There's a plunger.
In my head, it's definitely making a slide whistle noise.
In mine, it was making like the noise when Pac-Man hits a ghost. You know, it's like, that.
So after the plunger is depressed and the wires spring out of this thing, then they rotate it around a bit and they pull out a brain core, like an ice core, but made of brain. And then Freeman and Watts, incidentally, they shared this work, meaning that at some point, Freeman, who was not a surgeon, was like, "Come on, man, let me have a turn." And then Watts let him.
Like they're arguing over a bop it. Like, squeeze it, pull it, core the brain, scoop it.
They did 1,000 of these things together, and on each one of them, they shared the work.
Am I the only one who is shipping Watts and Freeman like super hard right now?
No, you are not. No, you are not, sir.
So by Freeman's account, the surgery was a rousing success. The patient survived for 5 whole years post-surgery, probably because they rinsed out her brain core holes with some saline before stitching her head back up. And her husband said the last 5 years were the best of her life.
He said that because her entire 11-word vocabulary was, quote, "These 5 years have been the best of my entire life," end quote.
Well, and also, like, the baseline she's comparing to is housewife in the 40s. So, you know, not knowing what the hell's going on probably is a good thing.
So buoyed by this single dubious and entirely anecdotal success, Freeman and Watts went on a lobotomizing spree, but now without making some refinements. Gone was the leucotome.
Good.
No, that gone. You'll be happy to hear this, Heath. Gone was the leucotome. They're done with that, with its wire brain coring thing. And in was a tool they fashioned, which the Washington Post article I read describes as, quote, "resembling a butter knife." Yeah. They used more holes in the brain now, and then they enter the skull from the sides rather than, top down.
All right, guys, we're making this harder than it has to be. All right, and she looks like Gallagher, the comedian, when we scoop it out like that, bald in the hair. We're gonna cut open the sides, right? That's an improvement with this butter knife.
So Freeman and Watts opened a lucrative lobotomy practice.
Yeah, well, as long as they get everyone to pay in advance,
right.
I guess.
Yeah, well, they still recognize what money is. Sure.
Well, you're not even wrong. They operated on just about anybody who came in. They even got an alcoholic lawyer and Rhodes Scholar that they just found drunk at a bar one Christmas Eve. For real. They just brought him in and lobotomized him. Some patients had to be lobotomized more than once because I guess they didn't butter knife their brains out just right, and other patients just said fuck it and died from it.
Sorry, want to go back to this. How was this lucrative? Were they taking money out of people's pockets after they did them? Because if they did, this is just season -41 of Dexter, Tom. It's not
Are they about to like try a spork? What the fuck is happening?
We're not done with utensils. Freeman began promoting his lobotomy cure, a practice which was heavily frowned upon as physicians were not, at this time, allowed to advertise their procedures directly.
So the part they were frowning on wasn't the part where they scooped out people's brains. Okay. Got it.
Wow.
Yeah. So to get around this, Freeman set up booths at medical conventions with like eye-popping, gruesome displays and lobotomized animals to catch the eye of the press, who would seize upon Freeman as a great story and thus afforded him free publicity. Now, lest you think that I am in any way mischaracterizing here, this is Freeman himself describing his advertising technique. Quote, I found the technique of getting notice in the papers. It was to arrive a day or two ahead of the opening of the convention and install the exhibit in the most graphic manner and then be alert for prowling newsmen. That night, our monkey died, but Watts and I made the headlines, even though we did not get an award.
Jesus.
He's got a spokesmodel just sticking a fork into a socket over and over. There must be a better way. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Okay, Noah, Heath, and I worked New York City Toy Fair for years. A lobotomized monkey is downright classy compared to the shit we've seen. Sorry, man.
That includes shit. We've seen shit. Literal
Lot of shit. Lot of literal shit.
Freeman's accounting of his success would, if it were in any way verifiable, be both appalling by today's standards and astonishing by the standards of the day. So, by his reckoning, Freeman and Watts lobotomies yielded good results 52% of the time. 32% of the results were fair, 13% poor, and 3% even poorer, meaning those guys just died.
He's just making up words for it. You can't just... All right. Goodish.
Fair? Seriously, if those numbers were true, which again, they are not true, but if they were, they would have been much better than the standard treatment of the day, which hovered around 0% and probably only got worse from there.
Yeah, well, right. And before people start wondering how a success rate can be negative, let's remember that they were treating depression with fucking malaria. So,
Yeah. Like, you're still sad, but now you broke your back from a seizure, too.
Right.
Like, yeah. All right, but there was no accounting. There were no real measures. There were no standards being used. Relapses were common. Many lobotomized patients needed to be retaught how to eat and use the bathroom.
Jesus.
They pissed on their shoes. They made passes at the nurses. They stared numbly for hours at nothing. They were rendered devoid of character and personality, and these were likely what Freeman was counting as the successes.
Pissed on their shoes, void of character, personality, passes out. Are we sure these people weren't just baby boomers?
No. By 1945, even Freeman was starting to wonder if maybe there was a better way. I mean, sure, rendering the mentally ill compliant and quiet, or, barring that, dead, that solved a lot of problems, but drilling all those pesky brain holes was a lot of work. And even Freeman had to admit that there was rather a lot of brain damage going on. His research into other options led him to an Italian scientist named Amaro Fiambierti, terribly mispronounced it, who was doing his own lobotomies by entering the brain through the relatively thin part of the skull behind the eye socket and then using alcohol to kill the brain tissue behind it.
all right, wait. So at some point, Freeman actually said, you know what the problem is? I'm not stabbing them in the eye when I scoop out all their long division and ability to piss. That's what it is.
So Freeman adapted this Italian technique, and again, he practiced it on cadavers, using at first a literal ice pick from his kitchen and a little hammer to pierce the skull, which would then kind of just squiggle about a bit until he thought he probably ice picked away all the bad juju from the cadaver. So satisfied with this technique he practiced on dead people, and which he developed in secret, away from the prying eyes of his surgeon friend Watts, Freeman performed his first transorbital lobotomy in 1946 on a woman named Ellen Ionesco, and he did 8 more of these in rapid succession.
The woman after the 7th one was like, okay, only one more because I can't tie my Starship eating carrot subterranean vault anymore.
All right. Now, this part of the story isn't entirely clear. It's not clear if Watts was called in to see one of these procedures or if he walked in on Freeman like a dumb teenager who didn't latch the door all the way. But when Watts saw Freeman performing ice pick brain surgery, unlicensed, undraped, without mask or gloves, just in his office. He was fucking incensed. He insisted that Freeman cease doing any brain stabbing that he wasn't himself a part of. Freeman and Watts parted ways shortly thereafter.
Watts kicks open the door. What is this skullduggery?
See, you can't let these kind of fights break up a friendship, right, Noah? And
Please get
come
off
here.
me.
Come here, you guys.
Please
Stop
get
it.
off of me and stop doing brain surgery on dead people.
Always razzing this one.
Nope.
Always razzing with the jokes.
Let me get that ice pick.
All right, from then on, Freeman was a lobotomy machine. He would perform as many as 20 lobotomies in a day.
Jesus.
He would send his patients home in cabs an hour after the thoughts had just been stabbed out of them.
You know what? Uber Pool. He won't mind. He won't mind. Do you mind? He doesn't mind.
There's not enough brain damage to make Uber Pool appealing. There's just not.
That's not a car you want someone to lick the window either, man.
And there's still no pee in the pool rule. I'm just saying that still applies in the Uber Pool. Thank you. Freeman enjoyed the shock value that his lobotomies had on others. He paused his procedures to take pictures. On at least one occasion, his young son, Frank Freeman, helped him perform the procedure.
What?
Patients, this part he mentioned, the patients undergoing this procedure, they were incapacitated by being shocked into stillness with ECT. And William's son, Frank, wrote of his experience on, like, Bring Your Son to Evil Dr. Workday, saying, quote, I was there to hold the person's legs down.
Oh, my God.
We all went for a ride when he threw the
Holy
switch.
shit.
Well, there's a missed financial opportunity right there. You could have done one of those. You could have done the surgeries outside of the IGA, had kids slip the quarter into the skull hole you just drilled. Ride the electrified legs, kids.
This feels like something from Coney Island. Absolutely.
Or Action Park, one or the other. Yeah.
So Freeman became the lobotomy ambassador after that. He taught the transorbital lobotomy to doctors, not surgeons, at dozens of hospitals across 23 states. While many doctors had reservations about the technique, they had more patients than they had options. And Freeman was a consummate showman and effective ambassador. He himself performed between 3,000 to 5,000 lobotomies and was responsible for popularizing the technique across the U.S., which performed as many as 50,000 of the procedures.
Jesus.
Wow. To destroy that many brains today, you need a TikTok channel. So,
Hey, Tom, what was the name of his speaking tour?
I don't know what.
The Hannibal Lecture Series.
The procedures often went very, very poorly. So more than one time he did this. He wiggled his ice pick tool so hard it broke off inside the patient's brain.
Oh, Jesus.
In front of crowds, he would perform showboat lobotomies, sometimes using 2 ice picks and both hands at the same time.
He's doing 50 at a time, blindfolded like Bobby Fischer, jumping around. Harlem Globetrotters music is playing.
Well, on one occasion, when he stopped to pose for a fucking picture, he bumped his brain tool, still embedded in the fucking skull of the patient, and he sent it deep into the guy's midbrain, killing him instantly.
That's a selfie related.
Just like, I just pull a rabbit out of the guy's skull. Hey, there we go. What a trick.
He starts doing them while juggling a bowling ball and a chainsaw. His assistant's throwing ice picks at him, and he's catching them in people's eye sockets really quickly.
For my next trick, I'll strap one of my patients to this spinning board. I'm going to stand way over here.
Where did the cranial fluid come from?
So one of Freeman's most famous failures was the sister of John F. Kennedy, Rosemary Kennedy. Rosemary Kennedy was the first patient of Freeman's who was mentally disabled.
Well, going into it, yeah.
She didn't improve from having her brains getting scrambled, and she was left severely mentally and physically disabled, like worse than going in, worse than before. Freeman also lobotomized famed actress Frances Farmer, who was something of a success story of Freeman's, actually. She survived the procedure, that's always a plus, and was left with a detached and flat demeanor following the procedure. The youngest patient lobotomized by Freeman was 4 years old. At least 490 people died outright from the procedure. In 1967, Helen Mortensen, who Freeman had lobotomized twice before, came back and asked to have the procedure done again, a third time. Freeman consented and severed a blood vessel, killing her, and that was actually the last transorbital lobotomy he performed.
yeah, her last words were, "There There we go. Third time's the charm.
Jesus.
I'm out.
So, despite all of the horrors and ethical monstrosities in this story, Freeman's legacy is somewhat unclear, actually. There is a case to be made that the popularization of the very idea that mental illness is an illness of a physical organ, a problem with organic causes and therefore organic solutions, and that this idea had a long-lasting and obviously positive medical and social impact. That's something we all benefit from today. Then, of course, there is the boring counter-argument that, no matter what you learn from brutal, self-aggrandizing human medical experimentation, you can't erase the horror of those injustices. Still, I say you can't scramble brains if you aren't willing to break a few skulls.
Jesus.
And Tom, if you had to summarize what you learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Well, I learned it halfway through and then got the lobotomy, Eli, so I don't actually remember.
And are you ready for the quiz?
Let's do it.
All right, Tom, which of the following was Freeman's favorite song to play during his lobotomy surgeries? A, I saw her standing there. Saw. It's a Beatles song. B, raindrops keep falling on my head. Or C, This Is America. This is a good song. It's by Childish Gambino.
I have to go with raindrops keep falling on my head because it's fucking amazing.
That is correct.
All right.
All right, I got a tough one for you. Tom, what is the most annoying thing about lobotomies? A, being at Walter Freeman's house and just needing to break up some ice and you don't know. B, the fact that it should really be called a lobectomy. They're taking shit out. That doesn't. Anyway. Or C, how many of its recipients voted in 2016? God damn it.
Oh my God.
I love that Noah's the only one who would be annoyed by a lobotomy. Just like, God damn it.
Just etymologically, like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
What are you adding space? That's stupid.
I have to go with the pedantic answer B. It just seems in keeping with your
me,
character.
it's always go with the pedantic answer. You're usually going to be right. Well done, Tom.
All right, Tom. What was the show about this called, the TV show? A, Gray's Phrenology.
Oh, that's good.
Pick and Mortality. C, Mind Shunter. Or D, Braining Bad.
Let's see. Clearly, it's got to be Braining Bad. Still one of the best endings of all time.
Absolutely. Walter White. There you go.
All right. Well,
Or no.
Cecil was the last to go, so Cecil wins.
All right. And Eli hasn't gone in a long fucking time, so Eli goes next. How's that?
Yeah, get ready,
Wait,
everybody.
the reason
They've
he didn't
unleashed
go
the
is because we
Kraken.
learned our fucking lesson, I thought.
Can't
right.
wait to
Well,
find
for-
out that Sweden doesn't exist. It's going to be the best.
Spoilers. All right, well, for Tom, Noah, Cecil, and Heath, I'm Eli, thanking you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, I will be an expert on something else.
you
You better
won't.
believe it.
No, you won't.
Between now and then, you can check out Cecil's pornographic Snapchat, Parry and Thrust. You can check out Tom and Heath's show, Get Your Own Fries, on Verve. And of course, Noah has a blog.
Oh, damn it, I do. Don't
He's
worry.
got a plug.
Is Verve a real thing?
It is. And if you'd like to help keep
so
the show
fucking
going,
old.
you can make a per episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past show notes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes.
We'll check.
You okay?
Just keep checking them.
Did you just get a lobotomy? Just
Just keep checking them.
Did I double the
What
same
happened?
sentence?
Trip and fall on an ice pick?
And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out the past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com. And remember, don't worry, science and medicine have everything right now. Try not to think too much about it.
Okay, Eli, your turn. The worst person to drive you to school would be...
Helen Keller,
That's a good one, buddy.
because she can't see.
Because she can't see. You're dribbling applesauce. Here, come here.
It's a game.
Lean over.
Playing a game.